Hey guys, what's happening? So now, I just wanted to take a second and break outside of the norm and talk about Cullen Bunn's Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team. And I understand at the moment, like, the experience playing the game is like kind of everywhere for people right now, depending on what platform you're playing it on or what kind of hardware your PC has. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but I will say that I have a decent machine with an old GTX 1070, which made it playable, and I very much enjoyed the story. But with that said, as we talk about this 4-part series with Trauma Team, I do want to let you know that there may be some spoilers that tie over to the game if you haven't finished the story yet, but for the most part, this series stands to itself within Night City without directly stepping on the toes of the narrative of the game. But even still, I just wanted to mention it because it's talking about the same city here, and there's a lot of things that I'll mention that otherwise you probably would have only known had you been exploring the map in the game. So there's the kind of disclaimer, I guess. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so just to start off with like the introduction of what exactly Trauma Team International is, before we even get into who some of these characters are, because Trauma Team as a company, it's a privately owned company which provides a service, and they are literally your tactically armed emergency medical technicians, and they were founded in the US when things needed to be stepped up in the year 2020 in Cyberpunk. I guess their 2020 was rough too. But through the years, this private company has kind of changed to adapt how they needed to after different corporate wars and Trauma Team physically becoming short-handed, and then fast forward to 2077 to where they no longer deal with corporate, and now they only sell their services to private citizens. But even still with that, they charge the premium. And they kind of have to compensate for their transportation, their gear, their employees, and everything that they've invested into this smaller group of clientele, which is mainly comprised of people who are filthy rich and who are able to afford their services, which I want to say started around like $1,000 a month for the subscription, but then jump forward to 2077, the subscription was like 14,000 or somewhere in that ballpark. But this is one of the reasons, as far as throughout Night City, depending on what side of town you're on and what the economy is like within that side of town, you may or may not see Trauma Team at all. Because if you're traveling through Westbrook, or God forbid if you're down in Pacifica, because it is rough in Pacifica, but if you're on any side of town where people make like your average or even below average income, like you will rarely or never see Trauma Team out there, unless somebody gets shot and then you're like, oh snap, they got Trauma Team coverage. But for that reason, you're more likely gonna see Trauma Team only in the areas where people are more financially well off, because it's a business, they provide a service, and after that, it's just on to the next client. But starting off, we begin with Nadia, who's being evaluated on whether or not she's ready to get back into the field after being the sole survivor to the most recent call that it went out to her Trauma Team unit. And more or less, they're trying to see if she's mentally ready to get back into active duty. And one of the steps of her evaluation is like recalling back everything that she had seen, and with doing so, she's being examined and questioned to make sure that she's not pulling an emotional attachment to the previous team that she had lost and everything that had taken place on that last pickup, which for the record had taken place in Westbrook, which all in all isn't your worst place in Night City, because even though you have like your formidable characters within Westbrook, but even still it's nowhere as crazy as Pacifica, which is like the territory of the Voodoo Boys, or even dare I say like your downtown Night City, which is safe for pedestrians, but if you start the least amount of trouble there, one, you have to deal with the cops, who at their most basic level, they're like the SWAT team, and if you get 4 stars, like they'll dang near send Terminators after you, and these things are faster than T-800s. In downtown, like these guys are everywhere, and on top of that, in the downtown area, you also have drones and way more Trauma Team units, because it's in this high-end area where most of their clients live. And so like I said, it's cool downtown as long as you don't start nothing. But this is the thing, like with what had happened with Nadia's unit in Westbrook, which is like northeast of your downtown area, which all in all has less Trauma Team coverage, and it's one of the main reasons her team just didn't have the numbers to keep up with this mysterious dude who attacked their team, not to mention that he had some crazy upgrades. But with Nadia describing back this incident that had happened, she's very unemotional in her description. She lets them know like with everything she had did, she just went by the books, which all in all, it's a true representation of what had actually happened. Like they went to pick up a client and this one dude wrecked everybody, and Nadia was pretty much just able to keep the client far enough away, long enough for the next evac to come through, and get her and the client out of there. But with Nadia giving this description of what had happened, because all of this had really taken place within the course of like just a few minutes. And on top of that, Trauma Team, like, they're not detectives. So in their case, they don't want all this information so they can open some type of investigation or something, but instead they just want to make a determination as quick as possible so that they can determine whether or not Nadia is ready for active duty. And it really isn't long before they greenlight Nadia and they put her with a new team and put her back in the field. And so now generally with each team, you'll have anywhere from 4 to 6 members. And your first 2 will be like your medic and your technician, to where in this case, Nadia, she's a medic, and it's mainly her job to keep the client alive. And it's the job of the technician to assist her with that. And aside from that, you'll have another 2 that'll be pilots/soldiers as well. But aside from then, you'll have at least 2 who are like dedicated soldiers, like SEAL team, big gun toting guys. And they do all the dirty work in order to get this unit in and out. And at the moment, I forget specifically like what the Navy SEAL type members are called, but in this case, within this unit, the 2 heavy hitters would be Stratter and Gordon. And at this time, with Nadia's first trip after losing her whole previous team, they're making a way to answer a call in Pacifica. And when they do, Stratter kind of teases her like this is her first op ever, even though it's not, and I'm pretty sure that he knows that it's not, but even still, it's like he's testing her and making sure that she knows how to keep her cool under pressure, because they pretty much have this saying of stay frosty or get frosted, which is very accurate for their line of work, because you either keep your cool or you get put on ice, because in the field, the slightest slip up can have you flatline quick. But so when they arrive in Pacifica, they get there within their general response time, which is 3 to 7 minutes, and that's like their standard time for anywhere in Night City. And in this case, it seems like you're pretty easy pickup because their client is 3 floors down from the rooftop that they land on. But even still, with getting in the building and getting through to that client, they understand that they're in a danger close situation because the people who are trying to kill the client, they're still in the building. But as they make their way in, just to share a little bit more information about Pacifica, like for the most part throughout this town, there are a lot of abandoned buildings to where it's scattered around. You have smaller gangs who have set up shop within these different buildings, but on a grand scale, Pacifica pretty much belongs to the Voodoo Boys. And in their case, they're like this huge Haitian gang who migrated to Pacifica after a huge climate change in like the early 2060s that had pretty much taken Haiti off the map. So with them migrating to Pacifica and taking over that territory, it was kind of the perfect situation for them, because originally Pacifica was supposed to be like Night City's vacation spot / resort / Vegas. Like this was supposed to be ideally the area where all the tourists came to, or even where your wealthy people of Night City, they would then head over to if they wanted to have like a Vegas-like weekend. But after an event that had stained the sky red for 2 years, a lot of the construction had stopped in Pacifica, in addition to other issues with companies who were funding this area that either went out of business or downsized, pulling their funding on the construction in this area. It then kind of left the physical territory up for grabs. And that's really where like your worst of the worst, they had just made their way over into this area and set up shop like in abandoned subways or abandoned shopping malls, hotels, and even in some cases buildings that were like halfway under construction. And it's for that reason when you see most areas in Pacifica, they'll seem either run down or deserted or even half constructed, and then on top of that, here and there they'll be inhabited by some kind of gang. Or then in your least case, you'll have like the homeless who are like scattered about here and there. But then as this Trauma Team unit makes their way through into this building, this is also where we see them start to pass by like other people who could use their help, but since they don't have Trauma Team service, they just get passed by like they're not even there, because once again, this is a privately owned company, so it's not like they're government funded and they're here to save everyone. But as they make their way through this building, like they turn the corner and just like that, they get lit up, because once again, the dudes who are after the client, they're still in the building and they've got him pinned. But in the case of the Trauma Team, when they are spotted, Stratter's the only one that's hit, and Nap, who's the technician, lets Nadia know that she needs to tend to Stratter quickly because his condition is serious. But when this happens, Nadia, she immediately freezes, because immediately she's reminded of Dodds, who is a member of her former team who was killed in action back in Westbrook. And there's more to it under the surface as far as the details about the other members of her former team that we'll get to later. But for now, just keep in mind, like regardless to everything that she'd said about sticking to the protocol, saying that this is only a job, it doesn't affect her personally, like this is the first time of us seeing that that is not necessarily true. But even still, she is able to get it together enough to help Stratter, who then helps them circumvent their way over to the room where their client is. But even still, with them finding their client, this miscellaneous gang, they eventually figure out that this dude that they have pinned that he called for the trauma team service, and when they see that trauma team has made their way to the condo that he's hiding in, they then quickly rush over to take him out and this trauma team which came here to get him. But here's the thing, because when Nadia and her team makes their way in this room to get this client, she quickly comes to find out that her current client is the same dude that slaughtered everyone in her last unit. And this is a crazy twist that we get for the end of part 1. And very quickly you can tell that Cullen Bunn is taking us on this journey within this 4-part series that's gonna deal a lot with morality and justification, plus making the choice of like what's the right thing to do. And like when you get into all that, like on the surface the answer may seem like pretty clear, but on top of that, like when we start to see more of the details, like that's when the choices start getting interesting. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so we can head to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and really my reasoning for jumping into this series. Like part of it personally is like with me getting back in the groove of things, I kind of just wanted to talk about something just completely left field. And like since I've been playing Cyberpunk like day and night since the game came out, like this is one of the things that kind of spoke to me, and I really wanted to hear some of you guys' thoughts, whether on this series or on your experience playing the game, or if you even had an opportunity to play the game. Like let me know all of that either down in the comments or over on Discord. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I got the Discord link down in the description, so either way, whichever works better for you. And if you are playing, whether console or PC, also let me know which platform you're playing on. And if you are playing on PC, like myself, like let me know what some of your specs are. And for those of you who are playing on PC, I'm pretty sure your PC is like way better than mine. And so with that said, I'm hating already. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.